Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of the AWS Cloud Operations Show on your favorite YouTube channel. My name is Amir Kumar Jagannathan, and I welcome you all to our second episode. Just like last time, today we have an amazing topic to discuss, and this time it's going to be security. And we're going to learn all about how you can secure your VPC endpoints using one of the newly launched capabilities in AWS CloudTrail. And to discuss all about it, I have an amazing panel today. Hello. Hey, folks. Welcome to the show. And all right. So, will guests please introduce yourselves, starting with to my right side, Suchita.
Hi everyone, my name is Suchita Verma. I am one of the product managers for AWS CloudTrail. I've been with AWS for 4.5 years now. Really excited to be part of this conversation today.
Awesome. Thank you. Asaya and then Brad.
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Isaiah Salinas. I'm a specialist solutions architect to work with cloud operations. One of the services I specialize is in CloudTrail, so definitely happy to be here to talk about network activity events.
Hi, everybody. Brad Gilman. I'm a principal specialist for our Cloud Ops team, and been here for about 8 years and specialize on services like AWS Config, CloudTrail, and now also CloudWatch.
Awesome. I guess you have the most experience working at AWS here in this panel here, right? Isn't it?
I guess so. Yeah, multiple roles so far.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, you started as a technical in a technical role, and then you found business to be even more exciting.
Yep, 3 years as a technical account manager, and now 5 as a business developer. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, thank you. Well, security is job zero for everyone here at AWS. We take it pretty seriously, and it is always exciting to make it even better for customers to make it to make the security posture better. And the CloudTrail network data events, which is the topic that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about like how that is going to enhance customers' VPC endpoint security. Before we get into the specifics, but there could be some folks who might want to know what is CloudTrail. So what exactly is CloudTrail, Suchita?
Yeah, so CloudTrail is an AWS service that does a very simple but very important thing. It captures every API activity that your users or roles are taking in your AWS accounts and makes it available to customers through multiple means. Customers, one, need this information to prove compliance. CloudTrail tells them who did what and when. So there are compliance frameworks that require customers, enterprises to capture this information and retain it. Customers also use it, as you mentioned, for security purposes. This information is very relevant to see if there's, like there's a malicious action that is happening. If you want to investigate, if there's an incident that happened and you want to see what happened, who did it, how far the issue went. CloudTrail logs is the first place where customers go to see that. And then the third one is operational troubleshooting. Your application is not working the way it is supposed to work. You can go in and see what actions are the application is taking, what's happening there. So very simple, as I said, but a very important service that is required for your security, your compliance posture, and operational troubleshooting.
I got it. Awesome. So essentially, this is about who did what in
Yeah.
the infrastructure, and it's really not about the application performance information or the errors captured, and that's where all that is basically logs or metrics, and that kind of goes to CloudWatch. But this is operations or actions done by an individual user or an API on the resources, and
Within AWS, yes.
and then something happens when things don't work. There could be multiple reasons. One of those could be somebody went and changed permissions for something, and that could easily be identified in CloudTrail.
Yep.
Right.
That's
Awesome.
exactly right. Yeah.
Great. So CloudTrail, yes, it looks like, I mean, it obviously captures really critical information, a lot of useful information. With that, that information obviously can be used in other places too, right? Like CloudTrail, what other kind of integration endpoints or kind of does it work with, how does it work with other services in the cloud ops domain? Brad, is that something you can give some insights into?
Sure. So yeah, so CloudTrail, there's multiple facets that it works with other services. So services like AWS Config are pretty much built on top of CloudTrail data. That's one of the main sources of data. So if you're utilizing Config, and let's say the example is just done where a change occurs, and CloudTrail is going to be logging that change, then Config takes that data, matures it, and then shows a little bit more information, things like what the status of it was before and then after. So that way the customer can be able to roll back changes and whatnot if they needed to. Other services like Security Lake is yet another place that can take in CloudTrail data and then normalize that data for easy consumption in various applications like Splunk or Logic. And then additionally, have the ability that you can push the data over into the CloudWatch logs. So if you want to do some deeper analysis over there, visualizations. And then also in our recently launched Q Investigations that's inside of CloudWatch, it does utilize CloudTrail data. And so I think that's one of those very powerful things that we need to make sure customers do have it turned on. And one thing that we actually didn't touch so far is we may want to break down as we're going into this what the 3 different types of events are. And so I think, Suchita, that may be something that you can get into as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there are different types of events that are captured in CloudTrail. All of them are important, and they have just serve different purposes, and they kind of capture different kind of information that can be used in different contexts. All right. So now let's get to the topic. Now we're talking about network activity events for VPC endpoints. What are these things? What kind of data? Like we talked about different events. So what are those kind of events? Can you give more clarity on that?
So network activity events is a new event category that CloudTrail is capturing. It is basically capturing all API activity that is hitting a customer's VPC endpoint and making it visible and to the VPC endpoint owner. So to come back to what Rod said, CloudTrail already captures 2 other categories. They're called management events and data events. Management events are control plane actions that are taken in your AWS account. So somebody created a resource, let's say an S3 bucket, that would be a management event. Data event captures data plane actions. So within that S3 bucket, somebody is adding an object, removing an object, deleting an object. That would be captured as data events. And I went over network activity events very quickly, but in very, very simple ways, when we talk to our customers, when we talk to security people who are professionals who are either responding to a compliance issue or responding to a security incident, they are looking at 3 things. They're looking at confirming that it is their identities, which is me, who's accessing their resources or objects within those resources, mine. And then third thing is that they want to be able to prove that these actions are happening from known expected networks, which is here. So management data events, they give us me and mine, right? This is my resource, this is my user identity, this is my role. What network activity events expands it to is here. This is where the call is originating from. Should it originate from this location? Is it normal? Should I make some changes to make sure that anyone from outside my data perimeter cannot access my resources that is within my VPCs? That's the visibility that network activity events provides in addition to what management and data events provide.
That is great, and this is definitely definitely interesting. So just to be sure, this the CloudTrail collects really important actions that somebody performs on resources, and these are immutable, right? Like no one can go edit or change these things. These are basically stacked based on timestamp and ordered that way.
Yeah. So there are 2 ways within CloudTrail that you can get these events or logs delivered. One is through trails, which is what is most commonly used with our customers. And what that is, it is basically a pipe. Customers will tell us what to log, and they can say management events, data events, network activity events, and then they'll say where to deliver it. And the options on trails are S3 buckets, that is by default required, or they can also send it to CloudWatch logs. Now, when CloudTrail sends this data to an S3 bucket, the responsibility of immutability and making sure these logs are secure, because that is a compliance requirement to make sure your audit logs are secure, that is on the customer. CloudTrail does provide functionality that can help you figure out if something has changed. It's called log file validation on Trails. So if, let's say, somebody who has access to your S3 bucket that is holding CloudTrail logs and they make some changes using log file validation feature, you can see if there was changes that were made. But the fact is that making sure that that S3 bucket is safe, it's secure, is on the customer. So it is immutable. It should be immutable, but the responsibility is on Trails, as lies between the two, right? Then there's another one, which is CloudTrail Lake, which is a managed solution. And I know Isaiah will walk you through that in the demo. But what happens is, in that, the storage, the retention is all managed by CloudTrail. So customers will tell us, this is what I want to capture, very similar to Trails. And then they'll tell us, this is the data store, event data store that I want to save it in. Now, that event data store within CloudTrail Lake is managed by CloudTrail, and that is inherently immutable. Customers only have read-only access to that data, so they cannot change it. So there, the retention and the immutability is taken care by CloudTrail. Yeah.
Got it. This is really useful. And the integrity of the data is super critical in this. And if the data is taken out of CloudTrail into S3 or elsewhere, then of course the responsibility lies with whoever owns that environment. And this kind of emphasizes on the shared responsibility model that we always talk about, right? Really important for customers to understand who's responsible for what here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. So getting back to the network data events again, maybe Brad, can you give some insights on why this is important for customers?
Sure. One example that I love to talk about is actually one that came from a customer. And so this came when we were doing the initial pilot phases of this new feature and meeting with one of our large medical customers. They, in essence, what they saw this in their use case for it is going to be around primarily where they allow independent third parties to come into, say, their S3 bucket and place data inside of there. And so this is all coming through a VPC endpoint. And the thing that they needed to be able to do is, let's say if one of these contractors or subgroup that gives them or supplies them with data had a breach of some sort, and they would have to be able to report on the fact that they can guarantee no unauthorized access had come through. And so this is actually one of those exact features now that we've launched that gives them capability. And say the other direction though as well. So like VPCs are going to be handling a lot of traffic, and which could also be a source for data exfiltration. And so that's definitely something we want to help customers keep under wraps. And so let's say, for example, that an employee is using some personal credentials within your company's VPC. And so if they are trying to, say, upload that data to a personal Amazon bucket, the VPC policies would be configured to prevent that. And then now this is where those logs would then show up. And so prior, customers would have to build out a gambit of different things to be able to log this, whereas now you're going to have this information via these logs, and then now they'll be able to use something like, say, CloudTrail Lake, which we'll show earlier or later, that's going to be able to let them go and see, if some credentials outside of their company had actually been used to access the VPC endpoint. So extremely powerful use cases here.
Yeah. Just to add to that, one more use case that we've heard is, as customers set up their data parameters and they're fine-tuning the VPCE policies, they want to be able to see that if I make this change, is it working correctly? Is the right accesses being denied? Is the right accesses being allowed to go through VPC? So they're using this information to fine-tune the data parameter policies and making sure that resources, data within their VPCs, within their data parameter is safe. And whenever somebody is able to access it, they have a record of it. So that's another one that shows up. But in the end, it's answering the here. Is it coming from the right here or not?
Right. Yeah, that's perfect. But what kind of information are collected in this?
Yeah.
What kind of data is collected in network data events?
Yeah, so true to what CloudTrail does, we do capture who the user identity was, who was the actor trying to access your resources within your VPC, what time it was, what was the action that they were trying to do, and whether it was action was successful or not. So all of that would be captured. It would also be capturing the VPC endpoint where the call actually traversed from. So it'll be basically who did what, where, and from where. All of those three things would be captured in this. And the important aspect is this visibility is available to the VPC endpoint owner. And if it is not the resource, they would not get. If the resource is not within the same account, they would not get this event. Only the VPC endpoint owner would get it.
Understood. I mean, are there a list of services that CloudTrail supports that you can talk about?
Yeah. So we launched in preview, I think 4 or 5 months ago, and we started with services such as CloudTrail, Secrets Manager, EC2, and KMS. So if you're using these services and using VPC endpoints to access these services, that was available. When we went GA last week, we actually included Amazon S3, and that was one of the most asked service given the data expel and risk and having the ability to see when somebody from outside the organization is trying to access. So we went GA with S3. So those are the services that we have right now: CloudTrail, Secrets Manager, EC2, KMS, and Amazon S3.
Well, I guess those are the top asks, right? I mean, I can totally see that being the top kind of services or points where point of interaction in this here. Okay, and I know CloudTrail also supports there's advanced event selector fields, right? Like is there a connection here with network activity events?
Yes, absolutely. And for viewers who don't know what advanced event selectors are, for data events specifically, CloudTrail has this flexibility where customers can say what resources, what event names you want to capture for your use case, especially given that some of these events could be really high volume. For VPC access, so for network activity events, we also have this flexibility where you can fine tune as to what you want to log. It is what you're logging is basically you first go in and you say, first thing is you choose the service that you want to log on your VPC endpoints. That's a given that is required. So you'll choose, I want to log all network activity events for S3. The next level, you can come back, you can say VPC endpoints. Within S3, there could be multiple endpoints that you have. You can choose that. You can also go in and say, this is the event name that I want to log. And you can also go in and say, I only want to log access denied errors. And this is specifically, let's say, if you have visibility for all of the actions within your account and you want to see only the accesses that are being denied, could be termed as somebody's trying to, somebody malicious is trying to access your VPCs, you can just enable access denied. So those are the filtering. And I think Isaiah would also share it with during the demo on what are the selectors.
Got it. So that essentially means it's also easy for me to identify if there were requests or activities that are not from my own network.
Yeah. That would be dependent on like what you're capturing and then how you're analyzing this information. So let's say within CloudTrail Lake, if you have it enabled, all you have to do is go to query, and then you can ask a question in our natural language query generator to say, show me all of the events that have originated from VPC EID that is not mine. Right, so you can go in and set that, and it'll give you a list, which is basically says if this is your VPC endpoint ID, all of these events are being originated from some other endpoint. So that's how you can basically see that.
Okay, awesome. I think that sets it up nicely for the demo, right? It's time for Isaiah. It's finally your turn. I apologize. We didn't really let you talk at all.
No worries.
So, you ready for the demo?
Yeah, all set.
All right, let's get going.
All right. So basically going to walk through, as Sushita and Brad mentioned, network activity events is supported in both areas of CloudTrail, CloudTrail Lake, and also CloudTrail Trails. So we're gonna give a nice demo between both sections and how you could utilize network activity events. So we're going to start off with CloudTrail Lake. So what you can do is you can create a new event data store. And the new event data store can be configured to start ingesting network activity events. You're not required to use a new event data store. You can use an existing event data store as long as it's currently capturing CloudTrail type of events, such as management events or data events. You can go ahead and update that event data store to include network activity events. For this demo, we're going to highlight how we can create a new event data store. Capturing network activity events. So I'm going to go ahead and first give it a name for my event data store. So I'll call it network activity events demo. And then what we want to go ahead and do is we can go ahead and leave the rest of the options as default, and we'll go ahead and click on next. This is where we're going to go ahead and select the type of event we're going to actually capture within our event data store. As mentioned, we want to have this as set to CloudTrail type of events. But for this specific event data store, we're going to go ahead and only ingest network activity events. So we're going to go ahead and uncheck management events, and we're going to go ahead and check network activity event source. Then what we want to go ahead and make use of is, as Sushita mentioned, as far as the advanced event selectors. And this is a good best practice to utilize advanced event selectors because it'll allow you to filter down to only ingest the type of events you would like to ingest for network activity events. So within our network activity event source, we're going to, for this example, we're going to go ahead and basically ingest network activity events for S3. So any VPC endpoint that has endpoint policies related to S3, we're going to go ahead and log those type of events. And then when it comes to the log selector template, we're going to go ahead and choose custom because this gives us the greater flexibility as far as defining specific filters as far as what we would like to ingest.
So this essentially means, sorry, if I have an application running within my VPC and I'm making calls to S3 service through the S3 APIs, those will be logged here. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So as long as it's passing through a VPC endpoint, those events will get captured. So if they're doing a put object, delete buckets, any type of S3 related API activity, and it's passing through a VPC endpoint, it's going to be captured as a network activity event if you have it set as the S3 as your event data source.
Sounds good.
So when defining your filters, you have the option to set up specific fields as far as what you actually want to track. And so for this example, we're going to define two specific filters. We're going to define our error code, which would be what type of error we're going to be tracking. So we're going to go ahead and say equals. And currently right now, the only supported error code that it is logging is VPC access denied. And so these are definitely ones we want to capture because we want visibility as far as who actually was denied by a VPC endpoint policy and capture what user identity was actually trying to initiate this API related activity, what account did it come for, and so forth. Another one we're going to go ahead and add also is VPC endpoint ID. This allows you to go ahead and basically just capture the events related to a specific VPC endpoint. There may be other VPC endpoints that you may, for specific requirements, you may not need to track those, but you can go ahead and set specific VPC endpoint IDs as far as if you want to include them or exclude them. So we're going to go ahead and say equals, and then we're going to go ahead and grab the ID, and then we'll go ahead and add that here. And then we'll go ahead and click next. And then now it's basically at the last page where it's a summarization of all our settings. So just want to go ahead and review that. And once we're set, we'll go ahead and say create event data store, and that will start then capturing any network activity events related to your VPC endpoint ID that you specified in your advanced event selector. So I already have one already set up. So I'm going to go ahead and show you now how we can actually query the data it's being captured in, and what can we actually see when we run these queries. So I'm going to go over to my query section here. And in here, I have it set to my event data store as the demo network activity. And I have a sample query here. And so just to basically go high level as far as what this query is doing, this query is basically taking account of all the events and basically capturing as that a total number of VPC access denied errors. I'm also bringing back, I want to know who the user identity ARN was, what account ID did this user identity originate from, what was the event name, what error message came back, what was the VPC endpoint ID, and also the VPC endpoint account ID, and also show me the source IP address. So let's go ahead and run this query.
And this could be a security use case, right? Like you're trying to find out, are there any users who are already who have already gained access to into my VPC somehow, and they are trying to make API calls to get some data from my S3 buckets or something like that.
Correct. Let me somewhere it's not running right. Let me go ahead and run it again.
Yeah, well, Isaiah fixes it. So it's both, right? It's if you're just looking at access denied and you're seeing there's a lot of access denied happening, that is an indication that maybe somebody's trying to access it. It could be for the right reasons it's happening. Maybe somebody does not have the right permissions they should be, but whatever it is, it gives you that visibility that somebody is trying to get inside your data parameter, and then you can look into whether you need to make sure that particular identity is allowed inside, if that is the use case, or just to have a visibility that there's been an exfil attempt, or like attempt from an outsider to come into your VPCs. So for both, whether access denied is happening, you want to know that. Access denied is not happening, but it's coming from outside, you want to know that for security reasons.
Got it. That makes sense. Good, Isaiah.
Sorry, just took me a while. I got the, go ahead. I didn't know if you were going to finish your comment there. Sorry.
I'm done.
Okay, so thank you, Suji. So basically, I was able to run the query, and so it's capturing the total amount of VPC access denied errors per user identity, and I'm also able to see the event name that actually captured it. And this actual output is very useful because I'm able to see how many access denied errors, what was the user identity error that was actually doing this, and then also if you see that specific one also carries the account number, but is also an additional attribute, that account ID. So this account ID is actually from the user identity that it originated from. So this account ID, we can actually compare it to the VPC endpoint account ID. And if they're not the same, then that basically tells me that this specific action took place from a user identity not within this specific account. It could be an external user identity that's trying to gain access to your VPC endpoint. So definitely a good way where you can leverage network activity events to really gain insight as far as who is making what type of actions, and the actual error code that is being denied. It actually will return to you the error message being that it was denied due to a VPC endpoint policy. Now, another thing that's very useful that we did launch in preview and this past re-event is summarization results. And so this is nice because it'll actually take the output of our query, and through generative AI, it will actually give me a summarization of those results. And this is helpful because sometimes we'll get an output of the query, but we may not know what actually it's telling me. And so this will actually give a nice summarization of what actions actually took place. So here it summarized that there was an IAM role named this. It initiated from a specific session, an EC2 instance, and it actually attempted multiple S3 operations to a specific VPC endpoint ID. It actually will mention that this actually was associated to a specific account number. How many attempts in total did this specific IAM role action took place? What were the specific API calls? How many? So leveraging the summarization via generative AI will actually now empower more of that query results that you're having and get you gaining even more insights as far as what actions were taking place.
And a precursor to that, just one thing, like on the top, if you see, there was also this query generation. So Isaiah is really good at writing queries. He can figure it out. This didn't work, he can figure it out. But for somebody like me who doesn't really like writing queries, you can just go in and ask a question over here. And then it'll write a query. And at least it gives you a starting point. You can continue to iterate on that query or just run it as it is.
Yeah, so let me try that. VPC access denied. Let's see what happens there. Oh, I gotta set the data store correctly. All right. So in here, it said it correctly because it defined it as an event category. As mentioned, this is a new type of event category called network activity. It created that a filter in the SQL query. It also defined the error code as being VPC access denied and gave me the range of the 2-week period. So it basically, I wrote it in plain English, the way Sushita mentioned, and it actually delivered the actual SQL query for me. So I could actually go ahead and run this.
So the command output is essentially telling us the status of the query execution, whereas the query results is giving the actual output.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And the command output is very useful because it'll actually tell you how many records were returned, how much data was scanned, and so forth. So it does give you good metrics to utilize too as well. But the query output results, as you see here, I got all my record sets returned.
Does the summarize results option, that I really liked it because it really gave details about specific number of operations and all that, which is not all that easy for me to keep counting, or maybe I have to change the query altogether. But it actually added more context to the results that I had. Does it also make use of the command output, or this summary results is enough for that summarization to happen?
I think right now it's taking your query results output and basically giving a summarization of that piece too as well.
Nice, thank you.
Now, what we can do is, I mean, on top of getting a summarization, we can also leverage CloudTrail Lake's dashboards. And this is a newly feature that we have that allows you to provide visualization on top of your queries. So for example, this query where I got a count of all the specific events that had access denied errors, I could then go ahead and click on Visualizer here. And it allows me then to set up a specific visualization widget where I can add to a specific dashboard within CloudTrail Lake. So you have different types of chart types. So for this example, we'll go ahead and choose the bar, the pie chart, and we're going to go ahead and set it to the event name and then also VPC access denied as a value. And so very quickly, I was able to create a visualization widget that will allow me to add this to a dashboard that will show me all the API activity and the count of VPC access denieds that are occurring. So I can go ahead and click on Add to Dashboard. I could go ahead and give it a widget name, counts VPC access denied demo. I have the option to either create a whole new dashboard or I can add it to an existing dashboard. So I already have an existing custom dashboard that I have my S3 visualization widgets in there. So I'll go ahead and select that one. I'll say Update Dashboard. I'm now seeing all the visualizations related to my S3 activity. So now if you see below, I now have my VPC access denied errors. Then I have the newly one that I created here. As you see, there's no data available. What we have to do is we'll go ahead and refresh the data. And it'll basically rerun those queries and fetch the latest results of those queries and start giving you the actual data. You can schedule the refresh period to be a different time interval, so you have a refresh of that data. So this is another area where you can utilize CloudTrail Lake to provide those insights for you. Definitely, we have other dashboards, other management dashboards, such as highlights and also specific related dashboards to S3 and other activity that definitely will get you insights to your CloudTrail Lake data events that you're being ingested in CloudTrail Lake. So the other area I wanted to also focus on outside of CloudTrail Lake, as I mentioned, it's also supported in CloudTrail Trails. So within Trails, you would define it similar as you would do in your event data store. Within Trails, it could be set up within a new trail or within an existing trail. So I created one already, so I just want to show you what it looks like. With CloudTrail Trails, you do have the option to also deliver those events that get delivered to your S3 bucket to also be delivered to a CloudWatch log group. And so I set up a network activity event trail that's ingesting network activity events. I created a specific event selector that is capturing events associated to a specific VPC endpoint ID. but I also have it optionally being delivered to my CloudWatch logs. And by you delivering these over to CloudWatch logs, it then allows you to make use of the CloudWatch tools to get further insights into those events that CloudTrail is capturing. And we want to definitely go over some of these areas where you can utilize CloudWatch, where it provide other visibility into these network activity events. So I'm going to go over to my CloudWatch console. So one in particular I want to talk about first is when we deliver these events over to CloudWatch log groups, now we want to go ahead and how can we query these events? And we have the option of utilizing log insights. Log insights allows us to run queries against our log groups. And one of these log groups that we define are going to be the ones capturing our network activity events. And it supports three various different types of SQL syntax, such as log insights QL, which a lot of us may be familiar with. But some of the two new ones that were recently released was OpenSearch PPL and OpenSearch SQL. So I want to highlight how we can use OpenSearch SQL to query these logs. So I have some saved queries that we'll go ahead and look at. First of all, let's look at VPC access denied by user. So if you can see here, we have our SQL query statement here. It's very similar to the one you saw in CloudTrail Lake. And that's what's nice about the OpenSearch SQL and the one you saw in CloudTrail Lake. You almost could use them as is. They just have some slight modification, but the query is pretty much the same too as well. So you can definitely make use of what you built in log insights for OpenSearch SQL. You can also leverage that in CloudTrail Lake too as well with some slight modifications if needed. So in here you see I'm basically doing the exact same thing. And so let's go ahead and let's look at the past 12 hours, and then we'll go ahead and run the query.
And we also have a query generator here as well. So you can, in case you have the, you find that challenging, you can make use of that feature too, just
Correct.
like what we did with CloudTrail.
Exactly. So definitely, whichever one you do, there's a lot of tools that will make this very easy for you too as well. As you see, the results came back. I'm able to identify the specific events. It gives you a nice little chart graph as far as the time period when these events took place. What's nice, then I could go ahead and take those results, and within CloudWatch, we also have dashboards. So another area where we can actually provide visualization pieces against our query results. So I can actually take this output and actually add it to a dashboard. So in here, I could go ahead and say, let's go ahead and add it to one of my existing dashboards here. And then we'll go ahead and basically add this to the dashboard. And then now it's down below.
That is great. And Andres is asking if we could also use contributor insights to find our contributors from that, because we're sending to CloudWatch logs. And yes, the answer is yes. That's possible, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that's actually, I was actually going to show that piece in a couple of minutes. That's great that they caught that, because that's actually another great feature, how you can use contributor insights to get you those top number of activities related to your contributor insights that you defined there. So let me just highlight one more area within the CloudWatch log insights, and then I'll head over to contributor insights. So what other sample SQL query I have is basically to get a count of. And so this is similar to the one I ran in CloudTrail Lake, which this is also going to capture me the total amounts of events, but giving me a count versus the other one, which actually gave me specific data per event. So in here, I got my count here. And again, with these, I could easily convert this over to a visualization in my dashboard and define it like a pie chart, a bar chart, and define what fields I want to utilize for those values.
Right. And also this reminds me before, while you're heading to contributor insights, is that because we have them in CloudWatch logs, you can also create metric filters, and we can actually create alerts. And based on these activities, if there is a suspicious activity that I want to take action immediately without me kind of taking it kind of in the pull model where I'm going and querying the data, it can push an alarm, CloudWatch alarm to me, and it can automate action.
That's great. It's like everybody already knows my demo because you exactly recited everything I'm about to show you too. But that's great. That's great. It shows that you see the power of the tools from CloudWatch and what you can actually do with it. And as like Maya mentioned, you can create metric filters, and I'll briefly show you the metric filter that was created for network activity events. So here we have the network activity events, and as Maya mentioned, under metric filters, you can create a simple metric filter. I created one here called error code equals VPC access denied. And so what that's do is as it's ingesting those events in the log group, it's going to actually look for that specific metric filter. The moment it sees that specific filter take place, as far as it's looking for that word VPC access denied, it then will take some specific action, and you can actually create that action by creating an alarm. And I actually did create some alarms for that. And under metrics, you'll see in here my alarms. So I have one here called CloudTrail Network Activity Event VPC Access Denied. And so within this one, I actually took that metrics from the metric filter and created an alarm. And once it was greater or equal to a threshold of 1, I'm then basically going to take a specific action. And in this specific action, I just want to get notified. So I tied this to an SNS topic, but you can do other specific action with CloudWatch alarms. You can define a Lambda function. You can define an auto-scaling action, and a ticket, systems automation runbook action. And so you can definitely leverage that activity to basically do some type of reactive approach to those VPC access denied errors that CloudTrail is tracking.
Right, and I also want to connect this to the first episode we did on the show about queue investigations. With the same thing, you can actually have an investigation automatically triggered as well. That's one of the things that you can do with CloudWatch Alarm. So all of those things come together, right?
Correct. Yep. Exactly. So definitely, you see how all the different tools are you going to actually use them all together and give you that greater insight, and also be able to react to those type of alarms. So let me briefly highlight contributor insights.
Finally, you're allowed to do that.
So with contributor insights, I went ahead and created one for top VPC access denied. And let's go ahead and put this for a 12-hour period because I generated a lot of traffic. So as you can see here, it's able to, within a 24-hour period, it's able to show me all the specific top contributors. It's defining me already what's the source IP, what was the user identity, and what was also the event name, and give me a total number of those and show me which were the top contributors of this. Again, these you can add to a dashboard too as well with your CloudWatch dashboard. The very, very simple to define. When you create a new rule, you define it, the log group that it's actually going to be looking at, and you can set it up as a custom role, and then define the actual keys, which are the fields from the event. So in here, I'm highlighting, I would like to see my source IP address, the user identity, ARN, and the event name, and basically show me the top contributors to this. And I did an additional one where I actually provided a filter too as well, because I just wanted to just filter down to the ones that had an error code of VPC access denied. So definitely a good overview of how you can utilize your CloudWatch services together with the CloudTrail network activity events to get that insight into what's going on with the resources within your VPC endpoint ID to actually get that insight and do some type of reactive approach to it as well. So
awesome. So while we are at it, I know that there's this thing called VPC flow logs, which you can go to a VPC and enable that, and those logs can be sent to CloudWatch. And I know that Contributor Insights has a built-in kind of query that supports VPC flow logs, where you can identify what are those IP addresses that are chatty, and what kind of data are they, kind of communicating, stuff like that. Now, can you, for users that do not know the specifics of this, can you distinguish between these two things, like how they're different or similar?
Yeah, sure. So that's a very good question. So like, what's the difference between network activity events and VPC flow logs? Well, network activity events is going to capture user identity that's actually passing through your VPC endpoint, where VPC flow log is going to be capture, IP related activity, such as, ports, all the network related activity going through your VPC endpoints. So they're going to capture different data. If your VPC flow logs is also capturing the VPC endpoint ID, then that is a common field that you can then correlate between the two and basically create a cross join query between both data sets and to better capture the entire flow of traffic. So you have network activity events, which is capturing your user identity against your VPC endpoints. And then now you have your VPC flow log, which is capturing your IP related traffic. And that common field, as long as it's capturing that VPC endpoint ID, you can create a cross join between those two fields to get an overall picture.
That's great. That's nice. Are there any other features that you want to demonstrate?
No, yeah, those were all the ones that I wanted to cover in today's demo.
Awesome, thank you. That is perfect. So we do have a question on the chat, and that is about is VPC Lattice an alternative solution to VPC Endpoint? And well, the answer for that is no. The services are related in certain sense, but VPC endpoints are used to essentially create private communication to your VPC supported AWS services, whereas VPC Lattice gives you sort of a framework to implement a defense strategy. Right? They are different. They're not the same or alternate solutions. All right. If you have any questions about the demo, folks that are watching, feel free to comment, and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions here. So now I have a couple of questions. The first one is about like the data that is captured in this. They seem to be very sensitive in some ways, right? The security events, and in an AWS organization setup, are there controls for me to ensure that the people using different accounts are not able to see each other's? Because sometimes I want to have a clear separation between accounts and who does what in each account. Suchita, maybe you can.
Yeah. I'll also let Isaiah jump in because he actually wrote a blog on it. So within CloudTrail Lake, there's no one single switch that you can turn on to do this. Essentially, what you're saying is, if I have a CloudTrail Lake and I have organizations, all accounts sending information and CloudTrail logs into that, you want to be able to have individual accounts have access to their slice of data. So CloudTrail Lake overall right now doesn't provide that, but we do have integration with Athena and Glue and Lake Formation that kind of helps you achieve that. And that's the blog that Isaiah had, and I think he'll be the best person to talk through how that works.
Yeah, so essentially what Sushita said is that since it's available with Athena, Lake Formation supports Athena, and one of the key features within Lake Formation is you can create custom filters. And so basically, you can define a filter that says, only share the data within my database that is account ID equals XYZ. And so that specific filtered view is only going to be shared across account via Resource Access Manager as a shared Athena database view, we would say, to that account recipient. And they will only be able to query and see the data related to that filter that you set up.
And just to double click on that one, so they would have to do their searches over in Athena based with that. But one of the things, the use cases we see for this from customers is where they have that centralized org lake, and that may be for like the security and audit team. And then you've got, this team over here that's got these 4 particular accounts, and they have their application they want their access to. And so that's where we see this use case really starting to drive.
Got it. Sorry, I clicked the wrong button. Thanks for that, Brad. All right, so Suchita, you obviously have the entire roadmap, and are you going to share that here? No, I just brought it up because, folks, if you liked what you saw, and if you think there are things that we need to support more, or capabilities that we need to add, feel free to reach out to your account teams, and they will be able to talk to us, and we'd like to dig deep. That's why I brought it up. So that's really important. We listen to customers. We really want to understand what customers want to use and prioritize building those things. What is the pricing? How does that look like, Suchita?
Yeah, so network activity events are a priced feature. It is charged at 10 cents per 100K events if you enable it on Trails. It's very similar to how data events are charged. So if you're using data events, you would know the pricing of that, and that's how this is priced too. It has a different usage type, so it will show up on your cost and usage reports. It's called network activity events, so easy to make connections with. On CloudTrail Lake, it's just based on CloudTrail Lake pricing. CloudTrail Lake is priced for, at least for CloudTrail events, at the volume of events in GP that you're ingesting into CloudTrail Lake, and also how much you're analyzing. So based on that volume, will charge us the same as management and data events that we charge on CloudTrail Lake.
Great, thank you. All right, so this was really amazing. Isaiah, thank you for that brilliant demo. That was, I know there was the query that you were trying to fix, and you fixed it like within a few seconds. That was awesome. Good demo of showing not only CloudTrail, but also the integration with CloudWatch as well. That was really cool. And yeah, we talked about this specific feature and like how someone can make use of this specific feature. I'm sure we did launch a bunch of new and interesting things with CloudTrail, right? Brad, maybe do you want to start, maybe cover a few things, a few interesting topics that we that CloudTrail supports?
I think he's having audio problems right now, so I'm not sure if Suchita.
Yeah, I think Amaya, we actually covered. Isaiah did a really good job on the demo. We covered some of the recent launches, including the dashboards, custom dashboards, ability to do visualizations on CloudTrail Lake, filters, and the NLQ, the natural language query and summarization. So I think we had like everything covered in the demo. The only piece that I think we can talk about is there's this within CloudTrail Lake, there's this pre-built, CloudTrail's point of view kind of a dashboard called Highlights, and where CloudTrail runs in the background all of the things that you should be aware of and makes it available to you at a regular interval. And that's within the dashboard realm. It'll every 6 hours it'll show the most important, most 5 things you need to start your day with, kind of widgets. Right now, network activity events don't show up on that, but that's something that whenever it's in future, they will also show up. But that's one thing. Start your day with CloudTrail. These are the 5 things that you need to know about your AWS environment.
Awesome. Are there anything else we want to add? We're almost at the top of the hour. So any other topics we want to add, or are we good?
I think we covered it. Just say,
right.
Give it a try. Give it a try.
Okay, yeah, give it a try. And here we have put together some stuff. So the first, obviously, the documentation, and try to create tiny URLs, so take a screenshot if that is something that works for you, and look at the launch blog that covers some specific details about the feature. And moreover, the other most interesting thing is that Isaiah put together a really nice interactive demo, and it's not a video, or it's not a long article or text that you have to read through, but you can actually click on that link and experience firsthand everything that Isaiah showed today, right? You can go see what to click where and where you will find and how to set up this feature to make use of this. Thank you for that, and I hope you all enjoyed the show. And we'll see you all in the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Here.